Holy Frankenstein, this is Season 2, Episode 5 of Flight Check. We're back once again, talking FlyQuest in every capacity. And as always, hyped to bring you yet another episode of high-quality content. My name is Sandy Toes, and to my left, and sadly only my left, is my fellow host, Noxwar. To the extra left is Curly in Hot Take Jail Double Q, who will unfortunately not be joining us tonight, so it'll just be a two-man show tonight.
He had too many hot takes last week.
Yeah, Nox, I mean, we had to put him in Hot Take Jail for the evening, so... that's just
it's kind of like the dunk take jail where you got to take a pill for the night, and
exactly.
Then we'll let you walk out the next morning. But
exactly.
In this case, next week.
Yeah. Well, Nox, I mean, first week of LCS is in the books. Just overall, I feel like there's been a lot of chatter from all over the community that this is one of the more exciting LCS week ones that we have seen. And for multiple reasons. So, obviously, and we'll get into it, the Smite Janna and Smite Karma tops from Kumo this weekend. LS and his drafts bringing out both Ivern mid, Soraka mid, and Sona support in the same weekend. Evil Geniuses looking pretty decent. 100 Thieves kind of comes back strong after a rough lock-in.
The reason Curly's in jail.
Yeah, the reason Curly's in jail this week. Team Liquid going 1-1. TSM kind of falling flat on their faces. I think there's a lot that's really interesting. What stood out to you in particular about week 1?
I mean, the two big ones for me are FlyQuest and Cloud9, right?
Yeah.
Just don't get me wrong. There's been interesting stuff that's been sort of out of meta played by the other teams, but far and away, FlyQuest and Cloud9 have been the two teams really pushing the envelope of the meta and what can be played on an actual professional stage. So for me, it has to be those two teams. And as much as I love FlyQuest, I have to hand it to Cloud9. They came out with a bigger bang than even us. But I'm very happy with what we showed.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I was over at my girlfriend's house, and I managed to convince her that we could watch the first FlyQuest match of the season. And we're sitting there, and I've and I tweeted this even, but I've explained the basics, the fundamentals of League. I mean, she understands that if you have more kills than the other team, that's usually good. That you can look at the gold advantage to see, generally an idea of what's going on. If your team gets an ace, that's good. There's things like that, right? And then we first picked Janna, and everything that I had explained just goes out the window. And I have to explain that this is a completely different way of playing the game than we have seen before. And I want to get on this right now, actually, because Jat said this not only on the broadcast, but on his podcast, which I'm so glad he has brought back, JLXP, the Josh Leesman experience, which is hilarious to me. I think, is it experience? Is that?
Yeah, it's experience.
Okay, that's great. That's a great joke right there. That people are going to look at these two games, the Janna and the Karma games, and be like, wow, these were so sloppy, clown fiestas, stuff like that. Yes, exactly. This is a brand new strategy that we have not really seen played ever. And we're basically not quite, because we obviously have practiced the strategy. But we're
No, it's very apparent that we've practiced the strategy.
But this is the first time it was played twice in one weekend, by the way, in a major region. I believe it was played in an ERL. I think the Spanish
the
league.
LVP.
LVP played it. But we were the first pro team to take the strategy out onto the Rift. This means that not only are we still going to be very new at knowing how to execute this strategy, but the other teams are not going to have a lot of understanding on how to play against it. League changes a lot, but a lot of the fundamentals of the game have remained the same over the years. And so if you see a team, oh, they're going Herald, okay, we can react and push bot instead, or something like that. Those are very fundamental. But when your enemy top laner is just roaming around the map, 5-man diving bot lane, and you're just sitting up in top lane, pushing your wave and getting turret gold, you're just kind of like, well, what do I do? Do I react to this? They're figuring this out on the fly. No pun intended. Mm-hmm. So these were not Fiesta games. They were certainly sloppy, but that's to be expected. So that's my little getting that out there before before we get to the actual discussion. I think we're just gonna kind of get right into this week 1 recap. Let me do a couple little house tidying things real quick. Quick reminder, if you can't catch all of the show, the VOD will be available here on Twitch and on YouTube on our channel Flight Check Podcast. The audio version will be on your favorite listening platforms as well. Spotify, Breaker, Google Podcasts. I believe it is on Apple Podcasts now. I'm not exactly sure how that has happened, but I did confirm that the episodes are on Apple Podcasts. So if you have a podcast platform that you like, 90% sure we are there. And if we're not, hit me up in the DMs. We will figure something out. All right.
We'll make it work.
We'll make it
for
work.
You.
All right. Week 1 recap. Let's get into it. Let me put that on the title screen for us. Nox, 2-0. That's great. First of all, we're very happy with a 2-0. And I don't remember if you said this in the Discord or if it was someone else, but the teams that we beat, CLG and Golden Guardians, I think these wins are more important than simply just, oh, we got some dubs on the board. Because these teams are the ones that we will likely be competing with for probably that 5th, 6th place spot, if that's where we're aiming for right now. I'm sure that's how you're feeling about these wins.
No, we've talked about it since the very beginning of the season, right? That we're probably going to be a bottom 4 team, probably we're going to be down there, right? So every win that we get against these bottom level teams is very, very important, because if we happen to beat all those teams, or at least force it to where if it's just a cluster down there and we at least have tiebreakers, there's a chance for us, right? That we can sneak into that 6th place spot, and maybe we can show off in playoffs. And Nick said on our show back in December, is we have got to hit playoffs. That is the goal. We have to do it. So starting off with a 2-0 weekend against the 2 bottom teams, or 2 of the bottom teams rather, is very, very important, and it's a very, very good sign. We'll continue to see how we do against harder competition, but it is a very good setting for us to be in right now.
Yeah. Couple things that I want to point out, I don't want to just completely take the entire evening discussing the Smite top, but unfortunately, it's just everything we're going to talk about tonight.
It's Enchanter Central right now in LCS.
Right.
It warrants getting talked about.
Yeah, it's permeated by the Smite top things. So one thing I want to point out before we talk about the strategy specifically is that it does put a lot of trust and pressure, if you will, on Johnson in this case, is what we did with the Jhin, who we'll get into that Jhin question momentarily, but especially on the Jinx, having him forcing like us to rely on him being a carry, being the damage output that we are pretty much funneling a lot of the gold into. I think the CLG game was a huge example of us just funneling gold into Johnson and saying, put us on your back, carry us home. And it worked. The Jhin did put out a lot of damage. The Jhin had some
He
really
looked
key.
good doing
He looked
it too.
very good on the Jhin. And then the Jinx, I felt that game was not as clean. Well, I mean, neither game was like clean, but
it was less clean than the CLG game.
The thing with the second game was that the early game did not go as well as the first game's early game, in my opinion, at least.
No, I would. Outside of Kumo getting a very beautiful mantra Q onto Pride Stalker's Raptors.
His Raptors, that was great.
That was fantastic.
I did really enjoy seeing Kumo bully Pride Stalker out of his own jungle. I mean, seeing when they went back for the replay, and we just see, I think, what did Azale say? Azale was like, jungle mains, look away.
It was something along those lines.
Yeah, look away, jungle mains. And I, as a jungle main currently, I felt for Pride Stalker, if I'm being honest. You know, you hate seeing someone walk up with a smite and take away your big chicken. So, lot of weight put onto Johnson. Takui, in my opinion, looked pretty good. I thought he was pretty stable. I liked seeing the Vex. I liked seeing that pick come out. I'm trying to remember what the other. Did he play Corki in the first game?
He played Zoe for
Zoe. Zoe. I liked they both sound with E. You know.
It's got an E sound at the end.
It's got an E sound at the end. Right? But I liked both the Zoe and the Vex, and I thought he looked pretty good on both of those.
So interestingly enough, I'll be a little bit of a dissent here, just a smidge, because
please do.
I actually thought Takui's laning, at least against a Blaze Olive, was not all that great. He was down in CS, was constantly kind of getting his turret shoved in, wasn't able to keep as good of track of a Blaze Olive, which in turn kind of limited the amount of roaming that Kumo could do in the early game, along with Jose Diodo, which is part of the reason why that early game was not nearly as strong as it was in that CLG game. I think if he had been on a champion pick that was a little more aggressive in terms of lane shove, which, don't get me wrong, Vex is a very good lane shove, but I don't know how that matchup goes, to be completely honest. But he was not able to have priority in lane, and a lot of times what was happening is Jose and Kumo were trying to have priority onto the bot side for Johnson to get fed, which is the right play for this particular composition. But Takui wasn't able to freely add as much help, right? So at least in the lane phase, which is kind of disappointing because that's what we've hyped him up for, is like his laning is amazing. He controls a lane. He can get his roams off. He makes sure the other laner can't do much. That part was a little disappointing for me. But however, he absolutely made up for it later in the game. His mid and late game play was fantastic. So at the end of the day, I was very neutral about Takui, which is fine. You have games where maybe you don't always pop off. But just at least in terms of early game, because it's what we were hyping up about him, just wasn't there this particular game. But overall, the mid and late game, he came back. He carried when it mattered because the casters didn't talk about it, but damn it, I saw those solo kills to Takui. Way up, go! I loved it.
Yeah, as I'm recalling, there was one fight in the Golden Guardians match where I believe it was a 3-for-1. I think Takui might have died in it, but he comes in on the Vex. Was it
the mid lane fight?
It was the mid lane fight. Ole goes in for an engage, and then Licorice is kind of coming around. I think this was like 5 minutes before the Baron steal, and Ole goes in a little bit too early, and everyone's eyes, all the focus is on Licorice and Ole fighting and whatnot. And in the back line, Takui assassinates Lost, there goes all your damage for Golden Guardians. Now, does Takui die for it? Yes. But meanwhile, Licorice can't do anything. I mean, he was very far ahead. He was very strong that game. But he was 1v4ing while Takui was 1v3ing. So we shut down the Gwen. We got the Aphelios. And the Rakan is down. So it's just Olive and Pride remaining after that fight. And we still have 4.
Mm-hmm. And Pride Stalker blew all his cooldowns onto Takoi, which is what he died from, which, I mean, okay.
So there's nothing.
Now Zed's useless at that point, right?
And Johnson's just able to then start walking up mid, and they literally just have to run away. And that gave us so much pressure.
That was a turning point of the game. Straight up.
It gave us so much pressure and space. We were able to set up, I believe, around the Ocean Drake after that. Get things set up. So that was really good to see. Afro, I thought, looked good. I have to think that CLG game, it's going late. I think it was pushing 45, 50 minutes, right?
It was like 47 minutes when the game ended, yeah.
I have to think that his leadership presence was a stabilizing factor in that game.
I think it had to have been both. I mean,
yeah.
Like, with how chaotic these game states are, like, if you're leading this team right now, I'm sure these 2 games have been some of the more stressful ones he's ever had to deal with, at least on a regular LCS stage. I mean, granted, I know he's been on bigger stages, but it's got to be rough commanding 4 other guys in a game state like this.
So definitely not easy. All right, let's get.
And then we have.
Do we want to talk to? We didn't. Jose Dioto. We didn't hit Jose. I mean, obviously the Baron steal, massive. Felt like he looked pretty good on the Lee Sin.
Mechanically, this weekend, very impressive.
Yeah, mechanically, I thought was really, really good. What we want to see. So I was pleased with his play this weekend.
Something I'll be curious to see in the future, and we can kind of talk more about it when we get to Kumo, but I'll be very curious to see how Jose Dioto handles himself when it's not this particular meta or not this particular style of play, where he has basically a support who's almost like roaming with him, right? Like, it's not with him like side buddy or whatever, but you have a support at least somewhat nearby for you, right? So I'll be curious to see how he does if like things go back to normal, quote unquote. Yeah. But for the time being, at least this past weekend, I've been very, very happy with how he's looked.
Yeah.
And hopefully he can keep it up because honestly, like in lock-in, he was probably my biggest point of scrutiny.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was the big takeaway we had was we wanted to see more from him simply because mid-jungle synergy is always going to be super important in League of Legends. Even though right now I would say bot lane is a very key part of, the game and 5v5s and such. All right, we're onto it.
Kumo.
We can't ignore it any longer. Smite roaming top strategies. That is our next discussion point. And I think there is a lot to unpack here. For one, this is a fundamentally different way to play the game.
So I have a question. Do you like this style of play? There's a long pause here.
There is a long pause here. I don't know yet. Here's the thing. This is a sports league. You do what it takes to get wins. So to use traditional sports as an example here, right? For the if you watch American football, you know that on fourth down, traditionally, a team is going to go for a punt, They'll just
Mhm.
punt the ball away. Statistically, more often than you think, you should actually go for it on fourth down. Yet it is so anathema to think about it, um, to think about doing anything other than punting, simply because the risk is too great. And yeah, you'll look like an idiot if you go for it on fourth down at your own 40-yard line.
But if
And
you get it though,
yeah, but if you get it, wow, okay, you've kept the defense back out on the field. They're staying tired. Um, and, it's really in your advantage. And you can look at all kinds of other things. Again, Jat was talking about this on his podcast. He was talking about this in relation to like Cloud9 and some of their strategies and whatnot, but talking about how in basketball, in the last decade or so, Golden State Warriors and Houston Rockets just started shooting threes, because 3 points is more than 2 points. And even though it's harder to hit a three-pointer, if you get a bunch of guys who can consistently hit threes, great, you're just putting up more points on the board. So it's a strategy. And I think while the strategy is viable, spoiler alert, I just saw the patch preview for 12.4. They are making some system adjustments. But that does mean we have this all the way through the 12.3 LCS patches, which I'm not exactly sure when that'll be. Might be.
what are we on right now? 12.2.
Yeah, we might have this for another couple weeks. And there's still just so much to unpack about it. But while it's available, why not take advantage of it? Clearly, we can win. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if we can win with this strategy against the top half of the league. I think that's way more difficult. However, if the opportunity is there to snag some wins using a strategy that people are not familiar with and don't know how to play against yet, because they simply have not had enough time to practice against it, I don't see why we shouldn't just grab 4, 5, 6 wins using this strategy. You might not like it, but boy, Coach Sharks is spitting right now. I mean,
Yeah.
let's just be real. These drafts are fire. So, I mean, that's my take on it. It's not that I don't like it. It's not that I like it. But hey, we just went 2-0.
So I guess
we haven't had a 2-0 since November 20 or some not November 2020, since like summer 2020. You said, right?
So I actually got corrected on this, but technically we did have the academy team 3-0 that weekend they came in to the LCS. But if we're talking about the original FlyQuest squad, yes, we have not had a 2-0 weekend since August 20th of 2020.
Well, there you go. Yeah,
So,
and yeah, we did have the 3-0 weekend, which was oh boy, those halcyon days.
so then let me ask you another question then.
Sure.
Do you think, at least until 12.4, that this particular strategy will become meta for other teams to play? Like, other teams are going to start making it their go-to strategy?
I'm going to say no. I think other teams are going to... You might see 1 or 2, but I think the top half of the league is going to stick to what they know. And here's why. Especially now that we've seen the patch preview saying, hey, 12.4, system adjustments for support solo lane. That's what it says. System adjustments, support solo lane. They haven't gone into what exactly that is, but you have to think it'll be something that'll make it impossible or at least not as beneficial to play. I don't think teams are going to say, hey, let's practice this strategy that's only going to work for 2 or 3 weeks. It's just not worth the time investment, in my opinion.
For us, because we're a bottom-centric team, we want to snag as many wins as possible
Yeah.
to boost our standings.
So I think we keep playing this if we can. And the fact, I want to say one other thing is, like, since we played both Janna and Karma this weekend, I mean, if you ban one, you got to ban the other. You know, you if you're going up against FlyQuest next weekend, if you're TSM, if you're Team Liquid, and you don't want to play against this, sure, ban the Janna. But look, Kumo can now play the Karma. Kumo can probably play the Lulu, because that's also a whole thing, is the Lulu Smite top as well. There's a lot of Enchanter...
There's options.
There's a lot of Enchanter options in the top lane. So, if you don't want to play against that, you have to expend a lot of bans to ensure you're not doing it. You're not playing against it. Or, again, like, even the Karma, Azael, when they were doing the draft, Azael was like, I'm not sure, what this is. It looked like a flex pick. It looked like it could have been Ezreal Karma in the bot lane. For at least some point in time. You could even do something like that where you're like, okay, we're going to first pick Karma, or we'll first pick Lulu. And then the other team starts going, oh, shoot, now we got to pick some stuff that's good into this weird team comp strategy. And then all of a sudden they've drafted themselves something that's good for playing against Smite top roaming, and then just not good for a normal game of League of Legends. And then you've just, baited them into that decision, and you just outdraft them and win. So, all that to say, yeah, it's a strategy. I don't see other teams really picking it up, though, with its announced inevitable demise.
Okay. No, I pretty much I would agree with all your points. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
I guess having to let you just prompt it yourself.
No, I mean, if you had to name a team, name a team or two that you think would pick this up for the next few weeks while it's still viable.
Evil Geniuses, and I'll go why here in a second.
Yeah, sure.
And then the second team, I would probably have to go with why am I blanking on their name? Dignitas. Sorry, Dignitas. Because I think right now the Neo Frost lane, as you will, has been looking very, very solid. On top of having River as a very good jungler, like that is absolutely a team who's set up that could absolutely play this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of similar to ours, right? You have if you look at it on paper, you have two top laners who are probably the least or the smallest prospects on their team, right? You have Fake God and Kumo, who everyone's kind of looking at not really feeling it, right? And then you've got two supposedly mechanically great junglers. River's shown a little more potential lately than Jose Dioto has, but the concept's still there. Blue lately has shown a lot of good play, as well as his Takui, so they're even there. And then you have two very solid bottom lane. These two teams are actually very similar, and I'm kind of looking forward to see how they play against each other, right? So I see Dignitas being able to pull this off, and then the reason why I said Evil Geniuses is because Peter Dunn earlier today on Summoning Insight was talking to Thorn and Monte Cristo, and they were talking about the whole Janet Smite top situation. And he was like, I love this meta. I love this meta. I used to play this myself before this thing was even meta. I was the degenerate who was in top lane, running it down on Janna Smite, ruining everyone else's day, but I was having a blast with it. I love this meta.
It does not surprise me at all that Peter Dunn enjoys this meta. I think the man thrives on chaos in the League ecosystem.
No, for sure. And so Thorn and Monty both prodded him more, and he's like, well, are you planning on playing it? And he's like, well, I mean, I'm not going to say whether I am or not, but I will say I am watching it very, very closely right now, were basically his words. And so I was like, okay, interesting. So I wouldn't be surprised for Dignitas and EG to pull out this strategy in the coming weeks, as long as there's still time to do it. I almost get a feeling that EG's probably practiced this, but maybe it doesn't quite fit their style so much. I mean, well, no, I don't know. I feel like they could do it. I mean, Impact has been more than a solid rock in the top lane. He could. I don't know if it's his style, though, either, though, right? He pulled out this nasty Tryndamere game against Cloud9 and almost won with it.
It's true.
So, right. Yeah, those would probably be my two teams.
Fair enough. All right, so I'm going to ask you here. In my opinion, this strategy is very risky.
Yes,
because,
for sure.
I mean, it's clear and obvious as to why, right? You're sacking top lane. You're letting the enemy top laner get a ton of gold, which we saw Licorice was very, very strong on the Gwen. I think if you are going to run this strategy, you have to really ban out some of the more OP top laners. Like, you can't let the Gwen get through. If you're playing TL on Sunday, like we are, you can't really let Bwippo have that Graves, because he will decimate your entire team if he does. And it's basically saying, it also kind of telegraphs what you're going to do now. Because let's say we go in against TSM or TL this weekend, and we pick the Janna, we pick the Karma, the Lulu, what have you. We're basically saying, hey, Tactical, hey, Hansama, see you in bot lane. All 5 of us. We'll be there. We've got a party ticket, and you're invited. And then we're going to kick you out because we're going to kill you. So, and then, as we saw in the Golden Guardians game, at the dive right around the 5-minute mark, 5-man dive, didn't work. They successfully repelled the dive. We didn't get a single kill out of it. And
we did burn the teleport, though.
We did burn the TP, which was big, but what you want from that dive is to see 1, 2, 3 kills going on to Johnson, like you did with the CLG game, right? Where we just chain ganked bot lane. And it was working there. Now, this goes back to, like, some strategy around the draft. I heavily disliked the Jhin. It ended up working out, but I really prefer the Jinx if you're going to run this strategy.
I will be the one voice of dissent on this.
Sure. I mean, let's talk. I think this is a great conversation, and I'm really excited we can talk about this.
So I may be opening myself up because I have seen no one defend this Jhin. And
sure.
I think I'm probably going to... I'll probably bite the bullet here, but I'm going to throw out my argument. So, I think the Jhin pick was actually brilliant. And here's the reason why. I really, really like FlyQuest's take on this particular comp. Because when you go look at this comp in solo queue, right, it's just you put the Janna up top, you pair it with like a Lulu in bot lane with a hyper carry, and then a jungler who can get picks and a mid laner who can get in there and get picks as well, or just scrap really, really well, right? I like this take from FlyQuest on how to run this comp with Jose Diodo sitting on the Xin Zhao who can get in there and get really scrappy. And then we have the Zoe for the pick potential with the bubble, as well as the Q Paddle Star, which can just absolutely poke people to death and like absolutely one-shot them if needed. And then you had the Leona for the engage, as well as just peel potential, engage potential. Like, Leona's just a very solid champion in general for this. I think the Jhin pairs amazingly with all this. And you saw it in the early game, too. Like, the amount of zoning potential that Johnson put out with his R, his W, it's just absolutely crushing for CLG to play into. And I thought this was great. So now, where I'm sure your complaint and a lot of other people's complaint, though, is it doesn't help you DPS down objectives. Is my guess correct?
I think it's, both DPS objective-wise, so your Baron take is tragically slow. And if you're going to run a hyper carry, again, I would just rather prioritize the Jinx in this scenario, which... Yeah, but, I mean, go ahead. It's objective take is slow, tower take is slow. You're basically
So
hoping that you can get in position to land, all your shots and your skill shots and whatnot.
so now hear my theory crafting out.
Sure.
What if, and it's gonna sound crazy, you just don't go for Baron?
Okay. Now explain yourself, good sir.
So the reason I say this is because what's going to end up happening, you have a death ball comp, right?
Yeah.
But it's like got huge pick potential, it's got huge poke potential. And you saw in that CLG game that like Johnson was already fed enough by the time that Baron was spawning that he'd open up R and he'd chunk the shit out of contracts or this other or Poom or Luger. It didn't matter. Like he'd open his ultimate up, 4 shots. If he hit all 4 shots, that person's either chunked or dead. It didn't matter. So with that said, you have oh my god, who's CLG's top laner? Jenkins. You have Jenkins on the top lane, pushing down side waves.
Yeah.
And then we sit there and we go to Baron and we're sitting there, we're trying to DPS it down, and obviously it's so slow with the Jhin, right?
Right.
What if you just sit there and you go mid lane, you death ball it down? And the thing is, CLG doesn't want to fight you, period. They don't want a team fight. And so it's like, well, they go to Baron, we shove it down and we get inhib, and they're not going to want to fight us. Or they come and fight us, or we go, basically, they go for Baron, we fight them there. That's still another fight they don't want to take. At one point or another, Jenkins is still going to have to teleport in to help fight the fight, and it's still a disadvantaged fight because we're better at 5v5. I think you just leave Baron alone. Because all the other objectives in the game, like we're already dragon stacking. We have 2 or 3 dragons already at that point in the game. We already have all the Rift Heralds. We have the gold funneled in. Just shove mid down, and then you go for the easier objective, the soul, because it has less HP when needed. You get that. You have soul advantage at that point, and you continue to shove lanes in. And then if you get a really, really good pick, by all means, you go for Baron. But I don't think what teams are doing right now and posturing around the Baron, trying to do this little Baron dance thing, especially with the Jhin, that was where FlyQuest went wrong. Okay? Yeah. They shouldn't have gone for that. I think if you sit there and you push down the mid lane and you force the teams to try and literally 5v5 you, and they're doing it at a 4v5 because Jenkins is wanting to do a side lane and he's having to teleport in, then he can't really push side lanes later, and then you can kind of do whatever you want. Like, I think the main downfall of that game, and we're lucky to not have been punished harder for it, was just us doing a Baron dance. We leave Baron the hell alone. I think that Jin's great because it offers up so much pick potential.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. I think the struggle I'm having with the strategy overall is that now teams have 2 games worth of data, about what's the math on this? 80 minutes worth of gameplay.
Yeah.
To go look at. This is now week 2 of LCS, right? They have a lot more information to work with. And now they have a whole week of scrims. And they know they're playing FlyQuest. So can you really safely pull this out and expect TSM and Team Liquid to not respond in kind? Gonna bring in a hot take from Curly's Hot Take Corner.
From Hot Take Jail.
Yeah, from Hot Take Jail. We couldn't let things go without him doing one, hot take for the evening. Curly's hot take, and I want to hear your response to this. Make Kumo much more effective at filling this role that he's been put in. Top lane has some big names. He wants him to be powerful enough to take them on. So, this weekend he'll play Huni and he'll play Bwipo. No slouches in the top lane. Second, we need to abuse the early game leads far more than we do. If we pull this off, he says, we could outperform my initial expectations for the team and sneak into playoffs. Nox, the floor is yours. Curly has laid down the gauntlet. abuse the early game leads, pull this off, run this strategy, and will outperform expectations and sneak into playoffs. I mean, how hot of a take do you think this is?
So the first point of Kumo, I mean, outside of a couple dumb mistakes like the getting killed by Graves as Janna in the first game, I actually think for the most part Kumo played it okay. It's kind of funny. There's been some takes I've seen around various communities of like Kumo played that terribly, and I'm like, I don't think you even know what you're talking about.
I don't think you. Yeah.
This game.
I don't think
I watch this gameplay and I barely know what I'm watching right now.
Well,
I doubt you know what's happening.
And also, how many of these people are playing Janna Smite top in, Challenger, Master tier right now? I mean, I doubt very many of them, A, know how to play it, and also B, know how to play it well.
So, yeah, from what I've seen, Kuma was always where he needed to be. Most of his team fighting is exactly what he needed to do. He had a couple mechanical mistakes here and there that got himself killed, which, I mean, that's just, sure, okay, fair criticism. I think Kuma was fine for the most part. I really, I feel like there's not much individual play when you're running this composition that you can criticize, right? Most of it comes down to Johnson. And basically, Johnson and then Jose and Afro in the early game to get the picks for Johnson to get the money into his wallet, right?
Yeah.
Everything else comes just like, it's map play. It's macro play. It's, holy shit, where are we going on the map? Like, how fast can you move? How are you keeping track of stuff?
Which is why the Janna is very good.
Which is why Janna is probably the best pick in the game. And why I kind of wish they would have gone for it again in game 2, but that's me nitpicking.
And they did not expend a ban on the Janna, as I recall.
No, they did not. Yeah. No. So, it is what it is. And then what was the second point one more time, Sandy? Sorry, I was thinking about on the first one.
Oh, you're good. He just was saying need to abuse the early game leads far more than we did. If we can take advantage of those, we can sneak into playoffs. So what I'll just say real fast, I am in agreement on the first part of this. Got Johnson very ahead in the CLG game. And even, I would say, the Golden Guardians game, at one point I looked, Johnson was at 330 CS to Lost's 199. And I believe was at 4 complete items plus upgraded boots and a stopwatch to Lost's 3 items and just regular boots. Vastly ahead. And I think that was part of the clear difference. But when you have those advantages, I do agree, I would have liked to have seen them pushed a little more. I'm not exactly sure how, because, again, you don't want to overstep with this comp.
So, in defense of Fly, and actually, not even defensive Fly, in props to Golden Guardians, I think Golden Guardians kind of understood what was happening. That's why you saw, don't get me wrong, I think people, because Pride Soccer got his Zed banned out on Saturday as well by Cloud9. But if you think about it, playing Zed into this comp, you have 2 supports, which Brom's kind of tanky, don't get me wrong, but you're playing a very squishy support, an AD carry that you're trying to get fed, and a Lee Sin who, can get tanky-ish, but is still very assassinatable. Is that a word? So, and then you have a Blaze Olive on this Corki who is just scaling the whole time. And so I think the problem you saw is when you go look at the CLG game, CLG's sitting here like, oh my god, we got to try and defend bot lane. Oh my god, we got to try and protect Luger. Luger is the carrier of that team, right? He's the best player on that squad. That's who you want to carry their games. You go look at the Golden Guardians game, though. Let's be honest, that bot lane is not what you're looking forward to you carrying you. It's a Blaze Olive. And so what ends up happening is, FlyQuest ends up shutting down Lost. Johnson ends up getting fed, But if you look in the mid lane, and I mentioned it earlier in this very podcast, Tukui was getting shoved in by a Blaze Olive the whole time, and he was just scaling for free, basically. He was having a grand old time. And same thing for Pride Stalker, basically. Jose was putting so much energy and effort into bot lane. Pride Stalker was sitting there taking parts of Jose Dioto's jungle and then farming the rest of his and scaling that way as well. Mm-hmm. So you had two different points of carry that was happening for Golden Guardians, which is why a lot of the early game for Golden Guardians shut down flies. And at that point, it was a neutral game state and actually was probably an advantage of Golden Guardians the entire time, which is why we were losing.
Yeah.
The main and only reason I think we ever ended up winning that second game was Ole terribly misplaying, and then Tukui being extremely clutch, even though he was down gold.
And so I mean, those you also things, have to also the Jose Dioto Baron steal. The Baron
Tuki Baron steal. Yes,
yeah.
We cannot ever forget the Tuki Baron
cannot forget the Tuki steal.
But the turning point was that mid lane fight, though, was just that. And basically, Golden Guardians just shat the bed, and then you can crap talk them all you want. But at least for the early game, like
you literally can crap talk them at that point, yes.
Yeah. But the early game, though, I have to give props where credit is due. Like, Golden Guardians knew how to counter that comp. So... And I think that's a great segue for us to start looking into the TSM and Team Liquid matches.
I firmly agree. One final question that I have.
Okay.
And maybe this can actually go into the Week 2 preview, so we will move ahead to Week 2 here. If you're going to go for this comp again, maybe explain to me and the listeners... Why do we pick the Janna or the Karma or whatever Enchanter support you want? Why are we first picking it? Especially when, if you're going for the Janna, like when I saw the Janna Saturday, I was like, I know what we're doing. Oh my gosh. Like, if anyone who knows anything about the meta right now knew what was coming. Even the Karma, it was kind of like, I guess this could go support, but why would they first pick it when there's other more high priority first picks on the board? It's probably another Enchanter top. Why, if you're going to run this comp, do you need to first pick it? Why can't you fill out the rest of your comp and then throw the curveball and say, got you, here's the Janna?
It comes down to flex, honestly, right?
Okay.
And it's not a flex to make the other team like panic and go, "Oh God, are they playing it? I don't know if they're playing it. What do we pick?" Really, it's a flex for FlyQuest. What ends up happening is you first pick it, and Janna's still absolutely a playable support in the bot lane right now. Is it common? No. Are there better support picks? Yes. But is it playable? Absolutely. So if it comes down to like the comps are filling out, the pick and draft phase is going, and you sit in there and you're on, I don't know, you're on, like, let's say we're on red side, right? And we're looking at R5. You're looking at TSM's team comp. And you go, oh, man, I think they pinpointed us here. I don't, no, oh, you know what? Kumo, Greg, stop. Go. Tank it. Like, that, and they can do that. It's not to flex to make the other team panic. It's for us to have our own flexibility of, okay, we can't do this team comp right now. We can't. I don't want to say it's a cheese, but like it's kind of cheesy a little bit too. We can't pull out this particular strategy against the comp that TSM has drafted, right? And so, okay, let's put Kumo on a different champion. Hey, Afro, you're on Janna. Do your thing. And so, I think that's kind of the thing why we first pick stuff like that, right? And so, I think it also part of the reason why they picked Karma on the second game of the day, because I'm sure you see Janna twice in a row. I bet you that Golden Guardians had something to punish it, right? And so they picked the Karma, and it makes them pause, like, what is this? What are you doing? Is this the same thing?
I mean, it's Nick Inero Smith. I would not be surprised if he had something prepared. All right, let's get into Week 2. Let me pull up the picks here. Curly's are already filled in for us, but we will go through and discuss our picks for the week. Curly going with FlyQuest beating TSM. on Saturday, and then dropping to Team Liquid. Let's start with the TSM game. That's Saturday. Curly says, "Call me crazy." All right, Curly, you're a little crazy.
You're crazy.
You're crazy. But it's a win. He says, "We beat them last year, even though they were up top. I think we can do it again." So, hey, going for that narrative-based analysis. And honestly, you know what? I'm here for it. I love it. It's what I live for. I feel pretty good going up against TSM. I think this is potentially another win. I don't know if this is a win through the Enchanter top strategy, but I don't think TSM looked very good. I don't think they looked very good versus Evil Geniuses, and I don't think they played Dignitas, right? I don't think they looked very good against Dignitas. That's just how I'm feeling there. Now, do I think they could take a week of practice and be much better? Absolutely. However, I'll delve into my own little narrative-based analysis. Historically, we've been great against TSM. We've done pretty well there. But here, I'm ready for the pessimism. I'm ready for the Nox War pessimism.
Not lost in pessimism. Are you ready for it?
Yeah, bring it on. I mean, I think this is, not to jump ahead, but I think we're going to have similar opinions on TL. So I think on the TL match. So I think the TSM will we win, will we not debate is where the money is at right now.
Yeah. So for TSM, yeah, you know what? I am probably going to be a little pessimistic. I do think, because you're correct, TSM did not look good last weekend. However, I did see drastic improvement from game 1 to game 2. Yeah. You can tell they're very discombobulated. And in, I think, what was it, Hotline League or something, someone, there was an interview somewhere that said Spica is literally translating for Kaiduo and Shenyi, like on the fly in the middle of these. It was an interview with Huni.
Oh, wow.
Spica is translating for Kaiduo and Shenyi, for Tactical and Huni, on the fly in the middle of these games.
That's insane.
From my understanding as well is, I don't know if Spica is the primary shot caller, but he is at least one of these shot callers. So he's currently splitting time on this TSM roster, translating between Chinese and English for Tactical and Huni, all while also giving shot calls. That's absolutely insane, and man, I don't know if he's going to be able to handle that level of pressure. Don't get me wrong, he was MVP of last season for a reason, or last split for a reason, but I don't know, he wasn't having to translate at that point. So I think I'm still going to be pessimistic, though. I think Speak is still really, really good. I think Kaido has looked fantastic in the mid lane. And if we end up running our little specialty comp again, it's going to be kind of the same play out as we had versus Golden Guardians, where it was a Blaze Olive just, I'm going to farm up. I'm going to make sure I do my job. I'm sure Spica will be able to just do his job, and he's going to probably let his bot lane suffer a little bit, which, oh no. And then that's going to be kind of the, like, you had a winning formula. Just copy Golden Guardians. Because I don't know how FlyQuest beats that formula. I actually don't, unless we get something better for Takui to make sure Kaiduo doesn't pop off.
Yeah, I think it's difficult. And what I would say about TSM versus Golden Guardians is I have more faith in their hands, in their mechanics, than I do Golden Guardians. I think Spica, clearly a better player than Pride Stalker. I would currently take Huni over Licorice. I would probably take Kaiduo over Olive, if I'm being honest. I think Olive's good.
That one's close. I want to see that match.
I do. I'm looking forward to this TSM Golden Guardians match. I really want to see how that goes. But just on sheer mechanics, I think Kaiduo is actually kind of cracked.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So I'm worried about us mechanically in that matchup, even if we do run Enchanter top strategies. However, I'm basically going off of, I think TSM is still trying to figure things out. I think they're still a mess, and they're going to take some time to get there. I am glad that we are getting them in week 2 instead of
Yes.
our first match being, week 4, the super week, right? When they've had a full month of scrims and everything. So I'm very glad that we get them now. I almost wish we had gotten them this past week. I think it definitely would have been a win. I am still going to fill in a win for myself here. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Apologies for the noise, people. And then, Nox, I'm putting you down for TSM. I think that seems accurate to me.
Yeah. I will say, and I'll go over this in the weekend forecast, I want to see us do our strategy against them, though, because if Speak is having to translate mid-game and shot call at the same time, that has got to be absolute hell.
Oh, it's got to be awful for him to have to figure out. Absolutely.
So I think TSM, I think TSM will probably power through, but there is a very, I'm probably going to give it 55-45 in favor of TSM if we pull out this comp against them.
Okay. I think that's very fair. All right, moving on to the Team Liquid matchup. Curly says, loss. Top side of the map. We know he loves some Bwipo, doesn't he?
Bwipo fanboy.
He should change his... he should have a Smurf account that's just Bwipo fanboy 99 or something like that. Loss. Top side of the map is just 2 OP. The only potential flip here is in mid lane. And it would have to be some serious abuse on Bjergsen to make it a win. I'm going to agree, I think for different reasons. I just think TL is too good. And even if we run Smite top, if we play normal, I just think they're way too good of a team for us to beat. I mean, we had them... We all had them number 1 in our power rankings. Yes, they did drop a game to 100 Thieves this past weekend, a bit surprisingly, I would say, after their lock-in victory. But I just think TL is simply too good for us to beat right now. Could there be a surprise? Yes. But for now, I am filling out TL in my pick'ems this week. I mean, how are you... Are you on the same page? Are we, I mean, I just don't feel good about this matchup.
No, I don't either. I'm trying to think about what lane do you even want to target, or what do you even want to do?
Yeah, where do you start? It's just bot lane. Oh, Hansama mid lane. Bjergsen top lane. Bwipo. It's just where do you begin?
So my thought process on this is I don't think I actually want to do our comp against it, because I think if you just let Bwipo farm for free, that's just game over. I think Bwipo is probably the best top laner right now in the LCS, and I think if you just let him farm for free, he's just going to roll over you later.
Yeah, I would agree.
Because even if you out-coordinate, well, actually, you have to out-coordinate the rest of TL to ignore Bwipo and to have a chance, and that's not going to happen either, I don't think. So I think this is probably a game where we should play standard, which puts us at a disadvantage. But I think it's a probably better chance than if we play our little specialty comp. With that said, I think the thing to target for us is our bot lane. Is we really have to... Ayla's looked so good, right? He's looked so good. But at the end of the day, though, Bjergsen's far too safe. I don't think you're ever going to be able to naturally replicate that Gwen game that Kumo had back in Lock-In against Bwipo. Don't get me wrong, I think he could pull it out, but I don't think he's going to be able to have the pop-off performance, at least against Bwipo. So I think you got to look towards the bot lane, and you really got to get Johnson fed again. And Johnson's been showing you put the pressure on him, he can handle it. He's got it. And then Afro has not, like, outside of like 2 picks so far out of the, eight games that we've seen FlyQuest play this season, he's had like a total of 2 picks where Afro's looked bad, and that has been like it. So if we can focus bot lane, I think there's a chance, especially because that's kind of what 100 Thieves did, right? Look at the recipe that 100 Thieves did. You put top lane on a tank, you let Closer just do his thing, Abadega holds the fort on Azir, and then you just feed everything into FBI who's carrying everything. Just do the exact same recipe, there's a chance for us, I think.
All right. I mean, I think there's always a chance. So I would agree with you there. I mean, are you going to put...
Don't get me wrong, I'm still picking TL, though.
All right, TL still going in there for Nox. I think we're pretty agreed across the board there. So an 0-2 says Nox, 1-1s for me and Curly. We will see who is correct. I will say in FlyQuest Discord Pick'ems this weekend, Curly and Nox both went 7-3, and I went 6-4. So
you didn't have faith in FlyQuest, man.
I just
I say as I think 0-2 for them this weekend.
Yeah, the guy who's going 0-2 for them this weekend says you don't have enough faith. Look, I just it is what it is. So
I do real quick want to shout out Road Roller, who out of all the pick'ems we've ever had, I have never had anyone get a perfect week. It's never happened.
Massive.
Until now. Road got it with a 10-0 on the very first week of LCS. So if you see him in the Discord, give him a round of applause, give him a little thumbs up, give him a little middle finger out of jealousy, whatever you would like to do. I do, yes. Road's also pointing out right now in our chat that he was close with the 14-1, also on the first week of, I think, was it spring? I think it was spring of last year.
I think he needs to change his name tag to Nostradamus Roller or something like that.
Or Fantasy Roller, Pick'ems Roller.
Pick'ems Roller, something like that. Speaking of fantasy, quick recap of the Flight Check Fantasy League. Sandy Toes' team, Cry Me a River, defeated Noxwar's team. What's your team name called again?
Lost in Fantasy.
Lost in Fantasy by a solid...
Which is very appropriate for this week.
By a solid 18 points. Curly also got a dub over Nate ID, Nate's Inters, by 18 points. Ricebox beat Sly Penguin. O'Cage Business beating SlyQuest. I love O'Cage Business. That's a great team name. And then the big one, Road Roller, our friend of the show, with his McDonald's All-Pro McTeam against Red Kobold's #Meech for LCS. Road with the... I can't pull it up right now, but he has Johnson on his team.
And he picked Jhin.
He picked Jhin as his pick for Johnson and just absolutely slammed. I think that got Johnson 122 points for
ridiculous
for Road. I will note one very interesting fantasy LCS fact, though. And I noted this to you earlier and actually in our Discord. So those of you who are in there would have gotten a preview. Good time for you all to hop into the Discord right now. It's a good reminder. Kumo, the number 1 fantasy top laner last week with 71 points. That's before any picks or bans or anything. Just on a flat scale. 71 points, the number 1 fantasy top laner. I think he went 1-3-31 over the weekend. So that's a great KDA. Clearly doing his job very well. Hey, maybe someone will pick him up.
Someone will pick him up because I don't think anyone in our league picked him up.
No one has him. So maybe it's time. Maybe it's time for me to drop Licorice and pick up Smite top Kumo. Final topic of the night, I believe, just a quick discussion on Academy. So, another bit of a struggle this week. An 0-2 and a 1-1. If you could remind me who they played this week.
The exact same people that we played in
CLG,
CLG and Golden Guardians.
And Golden Guardians. Now, they 0-2'd to CLG, which, to be expected, because CLG is literally the best team in Academy right now.
May not be. They got 0-2'd by 100 Thieves Academy the day after.
That's fair. Well, they're still number one in the league.
True.
And then we 1-1'd with Golden Guardians Academy on Friday evening. I mean, what are your thoughts here? And what we said at the beginning of the year was that we're not looking for them to, I mean, although it would be nice, not looking for them to just completely stomp Academy and just smurf, especially because we had to temper our expectations when we've got a basically brand new to the esports world jungle and mid laner. So you have to end, still very fresh face in Philip. But like, what did you see this week? Were there any encouraging signs that you saw, or are things just kind of like, ooh, gonna take some time to get up to speed? How are you feeling here?
Actually, no. I'm still finding improvements every single series. Maybe not every game. Maybe not every game, but at least every series. I'm still finding stuff that's like, oh, you guys are actually like showing improvement on this. I think the one that I noted against the CLG series was our objective timings on stuff in the for the Academy squad are looking better and better. Like we're getting better setup timings, we're getting better back timings, we're getting out on the map in the right areas at the right times when it's like not the best for like the opposing team. And there were moments in the CLG series that like if we had mechanically played better, I think we take a game off of them, honestly. Because both games of the CLG series were us just getting like terribly mechanically outplayed in like team fights or like in skirmishes. And that really just bit us in the butt. But at least in terms of like, hey, we're going to be here on the map. We're going to fight them for this. It was just outside of like, I think 1 or 2 instances, like we were always there before CLG. We were looking great in that aspect. I'll be honest. I did watch the Golden Guardians games. I may or may not have been partaking in some drinks though. And therefore, my level of analysis is not up to snuff. So
interesting.
I will refrain from commenting on that game until I rewatch it again.
Yeah. Well,
we got a 1-1, so it had to have been somewhat good.
It had to have been, reasonably decent, right? We won at least one game. Yeah, I mean, for my part, similar to what you said, as long as there is visible improvement each week in a mechanic sense, in a macro sense, in a micro sense, I will continue to be encouraged. You don't like seeing an 0-4, you don't like seeing a 1-3 week, but, and I don't want to say it's to be expected, but I was not expecting this team to come out and be 12-0 at this point in the season. I think I hoped for maybe like a bit better than 3-9, but hey.
Honestly, I was expecting us to be like 0-12. I'm dead serious.
I mean, hey, it's very fair. I think it's very fair. So, yeah, they'll just continue to play, continue to improve, continue to support them, I think is the most important thing. So there's that.
Let's see who we play next week. I'm looking it up real quick.
Looks like it's a super week.
For Academy?
For Super Week, yeah. TSM Academy, TL, and C9. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Because it's week. I forgot that we started a week earlier for Academy.
Yeah. So they have a Super Week incoming. So 6 games of play. for them this weekend or this midweek. So be sure to give them the support that they so rightfully deserve.
The TSMA game should be like the banger game because we're
Oh,
tied with them for
absolutely.
last.
Yeah. Uh, the I think we're all wrapped up here on LCS stuff, Academy stuff. Moving on. One final small thing
Yeah.
I've got. The Smash moment. Very brief.
Do we have anything?
I was just going to note that Kodorin is still doing his, I think it's training mode Tuesdays. I know it's like TMT, and every time I read it, I think of TMNT. And I'm like,
Okay, I saw his tweet on that.
Teenage Mutant
like,
Ninja Turtles
what?
tournament number 61. I'm like, huh, that's an interesting thing. No, I think it's training mode Tuesdays. He does both a West Coast and an East Coast version of that. It's like a whole ladder system. It's actually great, very complex, and I love the way he's got it set up. Really provides a lot of good training for folks really trying to get into the Smash Melee scene. And he commentates a lot of that, usually with a cool guest. I think last week he had Toph, who's a great commentator for Melee. So be sure to keep following him. I believe he also did a tournament over
Flawless.
the weekend that he won Pizza Time number 12, which is a fantastic name for a tournament. Let me see if I can get the picture here. Smash.gg/Pizza Time SD. Let me see if I can get that real quick. Apologies, should have had that ready to go.
There's not any like major Smash tournaments coming up anytime soon, though, right?
No, I think they're all just trying to
They've all got pushed back.
Yeah, well, because you had Genesis get postponed for a while, delayed. So I think they're just kind of waiting for that. I will note, I think Kodorin's streams for TMT, the TMT tournaments, are raising money to go towards Genesis 8. So that's really good. So be sure to support him and throw some donations his way. Yeah, I've got this tournament here. Looks like it was an in-person tournament, which is great. 27 people. And he just kind of ran the table. He did not drop a single set. He didn't drop a single match. He did drop a few sets, but nothing too crazy. So he went all the way from winners round 2 to grand final without dropping a single match. So that's great. I think that's a good confidence booster because I think he had struggled a little bit. He said, I think in a tweet, Lil Fumi kind of gave me the hands today, but I was able to prevail today over the Yoshi. Clearly, there's still a lot to learn. Happy to be challenged in tournaments. He also won Lawless Melee number 2 over the weekend. So it looks like he did several tournaments over the...
Did you read his Twitter at all? Because he was talking, like, apparently, I don't know, there's been kind of some drama in the Smash scene that I didn't really delve too deep into, but, like, people were complaining about, like, it's not worth my time to go
yeah,
like locals and stuff. And there was, like, a couple other, like, high-profile Smash players who were like, it's absolutely always worth
yeah, and he says in a tweet, and I'm reading directly from it, he drove 3+ hours to Lawless, that was the tournament he went to, with another 2 hours on the way back myself. He says, to be honest, I don't blame most top players not going because, to be honest, it's objectively not worth it most of the time. But to hell with that. It's all for giving back when I was a scrub myself. I learn a lot anyways. And he was quote tweeting Akio, I think, or Akio, who said he drove 4 hours to go to a different state's local tournament yesterday. There were some people who attended because they heard he was going. And he goes, yes, I put myself at risk of getting upset, and it was fun, in all caps. I think that's a great mentality. You're giving back to the scene that you came up in. You're, attending these local tournaments. Hey, if you are a big name in the scene, and your name gets more people to come out to tourneys, to locals, I think that's fantastic. And I think more players should do it. I understand why it's objectively maybe not as good for them, but hey, that just be how it be. All right.
Your props to Fly. Like, you managed to find one of the most likable guys in the Smash scene and pick him up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Great.
I think that real hat off to them. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into this episode of Flight Check. Week 2 of LCS back this weekend, playing TSM on Saturday. That game should be... It's the last game of the day. And then FlyQuest plays Team Liquid on Sunday in the second to last game of the day. Maybe 6:30 or so. And the TSM game should be approximately 8:30. Maybe a little bit later, depending on how games run. Be sure to tune into those. Hey, maybe we will we'll get surprised, and we'll see another 2-0 weekend. So that would be pretty dope. Be sure to follow us on Twitter for our reactions and thoughts, especially if we get another Janus Smite top game. You can catch the show at Flight Check Crew, myself at SantosDB, Nox at NoxWar with 2 R's, and Curly at Curly_QQ_. Hey, make sure to hop into the Discord, the Flight Check Discord as well, where all kinds of esports discussion, fantasy, takes, teamfight tactics, posting banger tweets, all kinds of things take place. If you missed any part of this episode, the VOD will be up here on Twitch and also on YouTube tonight or tomorrow morning. The audio version of this episode will be up on Spotify and all your favorite podcast platforms tomorrow morning. If you are listening to that and would like to catch the show live, we broadcast the episode every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time right here at twitch.tv/FlightCheckCrew. Nox, any final words, thoughts, shout-outs before we say goodnight?
Humble brag moment. I hit diamond in TFT. Just
Heyo.
wanted to restate that one more time. First time I've ever hit diamond in anything.
Love to see it.
Other than that, I do... If anyone wants to actually talk to me about the Jhin pick on Game 1 against CLG, I'd love to debate it some more. Because I actually think it's an okay pick if FlyQuest just doesn't do the Baron damage. So if anyone wants to debate with me on that in our Discord or DM me, whatever, let me know. I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on it some more, as well as just the strategy in general.
Yeah.
I know you like the pick road.
Absolutely. For myself, not much out there. Please stay safe. I think, maybe there's some light at the end of the tunnel for this long pandemic thing that we've been all going through. Hey, maybe the players are back on stage. Maybe we might get some fans back in the studio sometime soon if everyone behaves and stays good and does what they need to do. That would be great. I've been seeing the LFL matches and like their fans being over there, and I've been very, very jealous of seeing that. That would be great to have back in the LCS studio. All right, we will be back next week at some point to discuss Week 2 of LCS and any other important news that comes through. So for now,
we'll let Curly out of jail. Then
we'll let Curly out of hot take jail. He'll be back. So for now, I'll say stay safe out there. Please do not forget to hit the head on the nail. And we'll see you all very, very soon. Adios.
Have a good one, guys. And in honor of Curly,
Peace, y'all.